What is the legacy that I'm leaving? Most leaders run fast. Some care deeply, but very few can do both. Today, I've got Terry here because he does both.
Servant leadership matters because it's where your character is demonstrated.
Heart issues of an organization are all born from toxic relationships. When you have unhealthy people working with unhealthy people, guess what's going to happen?
Just because I'm not running around frantic doesn't mean you're not.
I literally went to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack.
Do you have people that can be with you? I think about Jesus in Gethsemane. It's the reason why we do this together. Jesus just wanted his friends to be with him.
The goal is to see others achieve more than I could ever achieve. I want to do good by you, whether you would reciprocate it or not.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Good Business. Today, I have a very, very old friend, Dr. Terry Cokenour. He's not old. Sorry, that came out wrong.
The friendship is
old, but I have more gray hair than he does, just to be crystal clear on this. Way more gray hair.
Old friendship is good.
It's an old friendship.
Yeah.
And in fact, Terry taught me how to build a website. I don't think he knows that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he taught me how to build a website back in 2008.
Please tell me you don't have it anymore.
Oh, I do not have it anymore. Do not worry. So Terry and I, we go way back, and we actually took similar paths. He spent some time on the mission field. I spent some time on the mission field. And the reality is that the reason why he's here is that most leaders run fast, and some care deeply, but very few can do both. And today I've got Terry here because he does both. He is a servant-hearted leader who's helped creative teams thrive and guided people across cultures. He spent time in Hungary, and he's even walked through a battle with cancer, and by God's grace is with us today. So praise God for that. And he's got lessons in resilience. He's got lessons in forgiveness. He is a leader that I want to emulate. And so, as I've said in every single one of these episodes, the reason people get invited onto this podcast, it is by invitation only. No one has ever paid me to let them onto the podcast, because that's not what this is all about. This is by invitation only, and it's because I want to have people who care about people on this show. Yes, we want to run good business, but business is about the people that we either work with or serve, but either way, we're serving them the entire time. And our job as leaders is to set the tone, to set the heart, that direction of that organization, whether you're in a for-profit, a nonprofit, an educational institution, or somewhere in between. And so Terry has become known as a fractional conflict resolution officer, right? That's the phrasing you used.
That's the label I'm putting on.
That's the label that we're
one.
putting on it, conflict resolution officer.
I felt it was the one gap in the fractional universe.
It is a very, very real
and it was
gap.
a conflict I needed to resolve.
Honestly, I think
That's deep.
it's true. It's true. I mean, the reality is heart issues of an organization are all born from toxic relationships. And they're all born from toxic relationships. And so when you have unhealthy people working with unhealthy people, guess what's going to happen? Unhealthy things. So ideally, you have someone who's in there as a catalyst. And so that's what you've been in so many different spots, whether it's overseas on the mission field, locally. And so there are three things that I want to talk about today. First, I want to ask the question, how do you actually live out servant leadership? Two, what is your playbook, whether formally or informally, for leading across cultures when the stakes are high? And then third, how do you spot burnout before it's too late? And obviously, we want to respond in a way that's healthy for all parties involved. So saves both the people and the projects when people are burning out. So those are the three kind of main themes that I want to walk through today. And I'm sure we're going to take rabbit trails. And that's the fun of having your own podcast, is you can take whatever rabbit trails you want. So Luke, I would love it if you could kick us off with our first question, carrying over from our previous guest.
Terry, as you now well know, on this show, we've been getting questions from previous guests for future guests. We'll ask you about a question you want to ask our guests, and we've got various backgrounds of guests, people who are for-profit, non-profit, business owners, sales leaders, educational leaders, and so it's a wide variety of people. But I want you to think about your question. We'll ask at the end. Uh-huh. But the question that you got posed is, do you remember a moment while leading a team where you not only got to lead the team to success, not just for your own benefit, but actually for the benefit of bringing up sort of the weakest link or
the junior team member.
The junior team member, where they actually got a win in it as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. Before I get into that story, is this work like food competitions? Like if I don't get it, the longer it stays on the board. do I get my photo and a T-shirt up there?
It does. Yes, you do rank down. No? Yes, we've got a little graphic going on right here. Right now.
No. There's no wrong answer.
Okay, we're not trying.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, all right. Sorry. Yeah, and actually the one that comes to mind is a long time ago. This would have been around. My goodness, 1997, 98. I was working in the virtual reality industry at that time, the early days of the virtual reality industry. This was location-based entertainment. So this was before places like Dave & Buster's got started, just before those started to come out. And virtual reality was being done in big giant cockpits you could sit in because the goggles are still struggling today because of nausea issues, as they struggled back then. But anyway, so you had, in this, you had both the tech and you had the retail, and this particular facility that I managed was a little bit into my time with this company, and it was the flagship store. So I was 21 years old. I had over 20 employees underneath me, including 4 managers.
Wow.
Yeah, and how it just, God, that's not because I'm awesome. That just is God's goodness, and part of that is a companies whose model was exploding.
Yeah.
They needed people. I grew up as an Army brat, and so I was really comfortable at moving quickly, and I could get a call on a Thursday, and I could be in another city on a Monday, and so those kind of things paid off, letting you promote it quickly. Anyway, so I get into this place as their assistant to the regional manager. The GM moves on shortly afterwards, and I get promoted to the general manager. And so I've got all these folks underneath me, and there were 2. And actually, I'll combine them into 2 stories. The initial one was with the assistant when I was first went there as to assistant general manager. The gal that was running it, this was just such a blessing. I owe so much to her in terms of working with people and managing people and setting expectations and making things clear, and just from an organizational, operational SOP type of perspective. But at the same time, I was sent with a list of people to fire. I was sent with a list of names. This was a store that was in trouble. There were management that was already moved out because of accusations of sexual harassment. There were employees where there were major concerns of theft, and product theft, stuff like that. And so I had a list of names that I was to terminate. And I brought it to her, and I don't know why I did this, because, I mean, it's God's mercy that I did this, but this was at a time when I was the furthest away from God in my life.
Yeah.
You know, 21-year-old kid on the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah.
In walks a duck, right? Like, you got all that. And so, but I asked her. I said, "Hey," her name was Charlotte. I said, "Charlotte, can I try something by you?" I said, "Would you let me try something? Can these people and the way that they've been managed?" They're like scared, and they don't respect this place, and they're not bought in, and everybody's just sort of fighting for themselves. Can I try something with them? Can we try giving them a chance? And what if? And so I pitched her this idea, and she went for it. And so the idea went like this: we sat down with our first meeting with the staff after we closed up at like midnight, and we're doing whatever you do when you have to have all those meetings. And I said, now look, there's a bunch of you sitting in this room. I know some of you I don't. And I've got a list of names that I'm supposed to fire. And some of you know who you are. Some of you don't.
Wow.
Some of you are hoping you know who the names are, you know. And I said, I've got files on all of you, on your records, where you've been late, where you've been insubordinate, where you've had, you know, all these different things that have all your documentation that covers the legal grounds for your termination within the state of Nevada. And I said, now here's the deal. I know you guys have had a bad hand. I know you guys have had a bad management, and I think you can do better. And so I'm just not going to do anything with those right now. And I'm going to treat you all like you just met me, I just met you. And so I'm going to afford you the respect of somebody that I want to work with.
Wow.
And I'm hoping that you'll do the same for me. And there'll be bumps. I'll have to correct some things, but anything new, you'll know. And maybe if things go well, maybe that file disappears.
Whoa.
And and she went for it. And I was able to do that with this group. And man, they were like, are you kidding? Like, they kept looking at the door. Like, is this allowed? Who's like, you're not allowed to do this. And it worked out great because the guy, well, now you know it was a guy, but there was the guy, and then later there was another guy who were the thieves that knew they were thieves. They straight up just quit. They were like, thanks, man. They're like, that's awesome, but I know I'm just gonna end up stealing some more, so I'm just gonna leave. You know, he's like, I'm not into the job. I'm not into it at all. Like he's
one way to get him out.
He was basically like, I respect that you made that offer enough.
So because of that
I'm like, I won't steal from you.
That's amazing.
That was a great story.
That is not how I expected the answer to that question.
That's phenomenal.
Going. You win the star. You get the gold
star.
star.
Know what? I don't know what you were trying to win, but you did.
I don't know. It was just weird. Looking awesome. Back, it's so weird. But that's not the one. The one was, so we had like, you have these tiers of management in these places, right? Everybody's got their form of kung fu, and the form of management kung fu in this place was general manager. You're Donnie Yen. And so you go from general manager, assistant general manager to, and I'll probably get some of these wrong, to like operations manager, event manager. Then there's like tech manager, lots of managers. And then there's like a crew chief sort of person, junior management, that sort of thing. Well, and again, it was about 20 to 25 employees. And so to get to the answer on this question, there was one guy that worked for me, and because these guys were young, betting a bunch of these, the store is now gone, the business is done, although there's a place in Houston that still has some of the equipment and specials it out at like Comic Palooza and stuff. But there was this one guy who he was having a really rough go of it. He was this kind of like hippie guy. He's tall, kind of hunched, and just fun, like had a good sense of humor, but then but wasn't self-aware. Mm-hmm. And so got on everybody's bad side, and it ended up just everybody hated this guy. Yeah. And they were like, can you just, and I got employees like, can you just fire this guy? Can you just get rid of him, whatever? And then there's this one night when the employees had the benefit of playing these high-end virtual reality games after the place closed, because they were like $10 a pop to play regularly. It took like half an hour. And when the store was closed, the employees would be like, well, we work here. We're just going to hit, go. So he and I were playing really late one night. It was just he and I. And again, just something, it was just providence, the Lord's hand. I just went over and I sat down and I said, hey, can I talk to you about something? Can I risk like a really direct conversation with you? And I was like, if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. He said, sure. And I said, what's going on with the way that you treat people here in the business? I said, you're getting in trouble for it. I said, I've explained the process of how write-ups work. You know that it's like a 3-strike rule. You know, you've got 2 insubordinations in that category, that's the big thing, is you just, the big key to management is just put stuff in very big categories, and then it doesn't take long to rack things up, and you can, if you need to terminate someone, you can. And I was like, I don't want to terminate you. You're good. You're really good at the core of your job. Why do you keep having these And he's like, man, you just don't hear what they say. And well, I come to find out, this guy's got this spinal problem from the time he's a little kid that basically made him have like hunchback syndrome. He would have been like an 8-footer if his spine had been straight.
Wow.
And he spent 3 or 4 years in the hospital as a child.
Dude.
Surgeries on, who knows how many surgeries, getting hassled, getting teased about it in school. And then he gets this job at this place where so many this place was interesting because virtual reality in the video game world, it has a very similar thing to the church in that it is one of those areas that will draw very disliked people into a community.
Sure.
Right? And so he's with people where he can finally have some sense of togetherness, and he's catching the same stuff he used to catch, and it's driving him crazy. And so he's just barking back.
Sure.
And I was like, this kid's just hurt, man. I was like, this kid is just hurt is all it is. And so I said, here's what I think. I think you're just right. I said, I think if you can realize that they don't know what you've been through, and I think if you could be the bigger man and just realize, what, like a wave, I'll just let it roll past, and I'm gonna think the better of it, and I'll do the thing that I think should be done, or however I phrased it at the time. And he ended up going into upper management.
Wow.
People loved him. He was a favorite of the customers, and then he started beating my high scores on the game after I left, and sending me. It was so long. He started sending me. Gosh. He started sending me faxes, talking trash.
Wow.
So I would insult him and fax him.
That's hilarious.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So he was, and I don't know. I lost touch with him and all that. I wish him well, but he was a sweet guy, man.
That's so cool.
Love to hear that.
And I feel like what you did is what you've been doing your entire career, which is servant leadership. You were giving to him of your time, your attention, your effort when you didn't have to. And that resulted in him being able to progress. And I love that question that Josiah asked, and
ties in
so well into
your
this
life. Yeah.
So I'd love to pivot, and I've got a long list of points here. So we'll just rapid fire match you.
Speed it up, go for it.
Okay,
we'll hit about 1.5 of them.
Yeah, I'll hit like 2. So I want to segue into that very first topic that I mentioned about servant leadership, about what the purpose is behind it. Why servant leadership? It's a buzzword. It's like, okay, well, I mean, you look at the current leaders in our world, and none of them act like servants. If anything, the leaders in our world act like bullies. And not trying to get political at all. I'm just trying to state, like, servant leadership is not popular. Maybe amongst Christian circles or religious circles, you might hear that, but walk me through why it matters and why that actually helps the pace of you being able to accomplish whatever you're leading your team to accomplish.
Yeah. Okay. So ultimately, and of course I'm speaking as a Christian, and I know many people listening to your podcast will be Christians, but not all. I don't assume that of all of the listeners. But my answers are unequivocally coming from that perspective. So I can only just be honest about where I'm at. And as a person who's of a conviction that we exist in a universe that is brought about by a God who is over all other gods, who is the only creating and sustaining God. It matters. Servant leadership matters because it is the model that He has given, and he's ultimately the one I'm accountable to, right? It's not about a country, it's about a kingdom and a king, right? I don't go in for royalty, generally speaking, though Queen Elizabeth was amazing, but I go for King Jesus every day. So it matters because in my worldview, it is at the largest ring of the scope. It ties into that. That's why it matters. But I'll give some practical reasons why it matters. Servant leadership matters because it's where your character is demonstrated. It's where your character is illustrated for those who are going to come after you. And it has everything to do with both the present effectiveness of your business or your ministry or whatever, and whatever legacy it will have. And what servant leadership is, it's really just following what Jesus did. It's coming out of the Gospels. And when you look in the Gospels, it says Jesus calls these 12 disciples, right? So there's a lesson already in terms of quantity, right? He's not like with 50 dudes, right? Mm-hmm. Jesus like, I can only handle 12 right? It's like that what was that Chris Rock joke where he was like getting his daughter out of the school? He's like, look, there's a lot of people outside that are in this world and they don't like you, and then some of them in the house are on the fence, they don't like you, but it says he called them that they would be with him and that he would send them out, and that they would go and teach and preach. But the first call really there, and not to like overemphasize a text or anything like that, but there's something really there to being with Jesus first, and then you're bringing that out. And so servant leadership has to do with, it ties in so many things from the New Testament. Putting others first. It is the great commandment, and the second commandment is like it. Love, right? Love the Lord your God with the best of who you are, with all your strength and might, and in all the physical parts of you, all the non-physical parts of you. And the second commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you would love yourself, right? And in all of the many examples that we could see. And so those play out in that model of servant leadership. And what happens is when you do that, earnestly, you very quickly gain the trust of those around you, because they can sense that you are for them. You are for them in a way of grace, in a way of agape type love, like God's love for God's love within the Godhead, and God's love for God's people for one another. Which I would, lots of ways of phrasing it, but it's sort of like I want to do the good by you, whether you would reciprocate it or not.
Sure.
It's I'm not waiting on you to have to do a thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the good thing for you. Now, in a business context, if you choose to do other things, there can be different repercussions compared to, like, say, like friendship or in a church or something like that. If there's like staffing and payrolls and things like that involved, you get other complications. But servant leadership is really at the heart of all of that, because that's what Christ did. He came and he gave his life.
He poured himself out.
Yeah.
And Paul takes that language right after him. And so the goal is to see others achieve more than I could ever achieve.
Yeah.
I told that to my employees when I was doing professionally. Now that I'm in academic world for the present, I tell students when I'm teaching them, whether I'm teaching them graphic design or game design or whatever I'm teaching them, I say, my hope is that you go off and make things that are beyond anything I can match.
Yeah.
I hope you make stuff that just blows away anything I made in the dirt. That'd make me so happy. Because what good teacher doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Right? If you got a teacher that doesn't want that, you got a crappy teacher.
Yeah. That's so true.
That goes back to a friend of mine who he had his saying where he would say, don't take, as much as you can, take professors, don't take subjects. Right?
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't have a choice. It's like the schedule is what it is.
Yeah.
But, but if you can, choose your professors.
I love that. Well, and speaking of along those lines, I think I forgot to mention this in your intro. You're a professor and you lead the narrative arts department, right?
I don't lead.
You
the
don't
narrative.
lead it. You are the head. Sorry, I'll let you just.
Yeah. No. I'm down the rung. I'm starting my second year
Okay.
in that department. It's headed by Professor Josh Sikora, who's got a background in cinema and film. And you're gonna love this. This department is mental in the best way. Okay, so I'll tell you this. I'll tell the story of how I ended up there.
Okay,
right?
yeah, please do.
So we come back. We're ministering in Budapest, Hungary. We go over there. My wife, Christina, who's Hungarian. We've been married 24 years. I have 3 beautiful daughters. We go over there to do ministry. So I start and pastor a Hungarian language church for about 6 years. Do lots of various other things, and time comes through circumstances. We decide we're gonna be back in Houston. And it's the end of November in 2019. So, brilliant.
Yeah, great time.
Welcome
Great
back.
time.
Yeah, my daughters, identify is a weird word now today, but they feel themselves to be Hungarians.
Yeah.
They don't feel themselves to be Americans. When I was my youngest daughter, there was a part I was trying to be super dad, and I was like, honey, you might feel odd feelings when you come back of like shock and like counter-cultural shock, like reverse culture shock. And she's like, stop. She's like, stop that. Stop. That's just you. We don't remember this place. Like, we just have regular old culture shock.
Yeah.
You're the one with the reverse. And I was like, fine. Go
That's
to
fantastic.
Yeah. So, which is a weird thing, raising children who have a markedly different worldview, but maybe that's always the case.
Yeah.
And so
the goal. How did you get to the professor position?
Yeah. So all right. So I'm there. We come back from Hungary. I'm looking for work. I'm scrambling around doing 3 or 4 gig work type jobs for several years, and that's and one of those is I'm teaching as an adjunct in the theology department because academically, while professionally I have all this background in IT and video games and virtual reality, academically I've got 3 degrees in theology, including a PhD. And so I'm teaching as an adjunct at Houston Christian University in their School of Christian Thought, which is a great department. But I really need a full-time job because I need benefits. We got kids. Like it's rough.
Yeah.
It's getting rough. And so I take on regular cycle, I'm checking the jobs at the university, and this one pops up and it says, looking for a professor in digital media, like kind of particularly in video games, in the Department of Narrative Arts. And I was like, what is that, like the Department of Dark Arts?
Yeah, Defense Against Dark Arts. Like, this is like a Hogwarts going on over
This
here.
is amazing.
I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, I don't
They
know
just
if
made it up last week.
I was like, I don't even know if I want this job. I just want the interview.
Yeah.
And so I contact Josh. Josh is a great guy. We sit down, we talk. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, yeah, we've got this department that got put together, and we have creative writing, and we have cinema, literal movie making, screenwriting, all of that, and digital media, graphic design, animation, 3D animation, and video game design. We have a BFA and a BA in video game design, and it's all under one roof. And the students and the faculty were kind of getting confused, like, why are we doing this? This is weird. These would normally divide it out into other areas. And they finally realized, aha, and man, you guys, this is such a language from another industry though. We're all trying to tell a better story.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's the story flywheel, man.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to that, and like that's what we're doing with these students is it's ingenious because when you're making a game and your characters are boring, it's because they're flat, and you need a creative writer to help you bring life. Yes, yeah. Thank you. And you may need better animation, or your animation may, and we could go round and round.
Sure. Yeah.
It's amazing. And then on top of that, as a school that's it's a Christian school as Houston Christian University. How do we get them to tell? How can we infuse them with thoughts and concepts to tell redemptive stories, and to not just take the cheap, low-hanging fruit, the gore, the death, the sex. It's easy. Everybody's doing it and everything. It's the easy fruit. How do you tell the better story? Because the stories we love best still have romance, and they still have valor and virtue and all those things, right? And so, he says, yeah, we've got this position, and we started it, and we got this digital media position, and we've got a few people in digital media, and we had a guy that was doing the video game stuff, but he left, he went back into industry, and so we need somebody that can do that, but we're stuck because the video game industry. Finding someone who will agree with a conservative Christian doctrinal statement and knows anything about the video game industry in terms of like
that's tough.
Yeah.
So
like different.
So
worlds.
it's been sitting empty, and it's getting stale because you've got students that are taking classes. They need. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I feel the breath of God's laughter on my shoulder, because it's like that time was like the most godless time of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's try it. And so it took about a year-long interview process, for lots of reasons. But long story short, I've been there. I'm now starting my second year as an assistant professor. And
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so if I can give a shout out, people are interested in this, narrative arts at hc.edu. You can hit us up there, and
I love it.
And find out how to defend yourself from
dark arts.
And Hogwarts.
Yeah, Professor Lupin.
Hogwarts,
which one is it? Yeah,
So, and just to be clear, HC does not stand for Hogwarts Christian. Yeah.
No.
So there you go.
Could be though.
Could be.
Man, missed one.
So one thing that I love and kind of don't like about the university model.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually don't like it. I'm just going to say it.
Come on.
Is there's this protection, incubation, however you want to call it.
Prestige?
No, I wouldn't even lean into that, because really what I'm trying to say is the hardest thing about university is testing. It's the stress of testing. At least it was for me. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case. But
I was horrible at tests.
What I think the university, at least the one that I went to, missed was preparation for the future.
Sure.
And I feel like from a servant leadership perspective, there's even fewer ways to gain that experience outside of your typical programs. But in the classroom, it's hard to teach that. It's very important to get that experience. So where am I headed with this? I think that there's something very common that happens to leaders in the real world, where there's not this protection or this ideal. It's really just, hey, I'm leading a church, I'm leading a business, I'm leading my family, and I'm stressed out of my mind right now. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. That typically does not make for a great leader. Stress does not turn someone into a great leader. I think pressure can, but stress typically pushes people into a place where they're feeling that pressure, and the first thing to go is, how do I care about the people that are with me? They're caring about the outcomes. When you're in a leadership role and things are stressful, you have to focus on the outcome, not on how to get there, honestly. And so what tends to happen is you tend to walk over people. You tend to step on people to get to that outcome because of stress. So my question for you is, you've been through a lot of stress in life. How have you fought that stress or that impact from stress on your leadership? Whether it was dealing with the stress of having to come back from overseas, that's a stressful thing. Going overseas, leading churches in another language overseas, coming back and leading a department at a university or a classroom and leading students. There's a lot of stress tied to that. How do you continue? What exercises, what practices do you have that help you hold fast to that servant leadership mindset, so that you aren't giving into that stress and just stepping all over people.
Yeah, there's one simple answer, which is, if I was to try to do it any other way than a servant leadership way of leadership, I would fail so quickly. Because having a mindset of building others up, and bringing together and building up, and like I was talking with Luke a little bit before we started, there's those times in life, you could clearly see that you guys have it here. We have it in my group that I'm teaching with. But for most people, this is a rare experience, or one they don't get, where you're working, unless it's like a military thing or something, like you're doing a thing that you want to be doing, and you got people that you love and you trust, and you just kind of lock arms and you just want to run and let's get it done. And you don't really care who gets the credit. You don't really care so much about the legacy, let the Lord get the legacy. You just want to get there and accomplish it, and in the midst of caring for others to do that. That's an amazing experience to have in life. Servant leadership is what will bring that about, because you'll see what people need, where they're lacking, where they need support, all of that. So part of it is, it's the only way I know. It's not the only way I know. I managed a little bit when I was younger, but I wouldn't trust any other way, in terms of how I would go about it. What was the second part of it?
Yeah, really what I'm trying to get at here is, in your experience, how have you been able to overcome that?
So at times,
and by the way, I'm loving this. This is fantastic.
This is good. Yeah, not well at times. I mean, to be sure, it's like a lot of what I've learned about, it's not like I've done it right all the time. I've had like my runs with depression or anxiety, and even now, I will say, before I forget, one of the things and you're right about when you talk about the classroom and its inability it will often have an inability to model some of that servant leadership, or to inculcate that, to incubate that. One of the cool things about the way that this program is run is it's almost all project based. So it's you can do tests, but it's really not like the way I do it. I don't really do that much tests. So if the university watches this, and maybe that's my job, you'll be hearing from me. But I stand by my case, because it's not. There's a place for testing, but what we do is we run it on project based. And so what I'm able to do is put teams. I'm able to put mock teams together, and team leaders and low leads and co-leads, and they get to see what it's like to do a small dev team experience within a time constraint. Because the first practice I run with them is, okay, let's say you're a dev team. You're going to have to produce a game. You've got a 15-week semester. What are your shortfalls? And you don't have to tell them much. And I'm just at the whiteboard, and they're like, we have no money, we have no talent. There's not enough of us. You know what I mean? We don't have any time. And it's like, okay, great. So with all of that, that would seem like the bad place to start. But knowing all these limitations, now when you start to when you start to work through the scope of the project, you are laser focused, because you're going to cut out all kinds of stuff. Wow. Because and you're not cutting yourself short. You can choose to do the big, hairy, audacious goal. You can choose to try to do something that's never done before, and that's great. And you're trying to do it, and you're like, we're going to go for it. But you're not going to just blindly do something. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the ways in that environment that's really helpful. But in terms of like, man, the stress and survival, one is learning about stress and trauma and stuff. The longer I live, like, the more I realize, like, man, I've been through a lot of stuff, like, my whole life, even younger. And like, the first time I ever went to a therapist, and everybody should get a good therapist. You should have you should have good friends, you should have good mates, good buddies, good chaps, good pals that you can, and that's pals in the Young Guns reference. That's the right sense to use pass. There's no other good sense. To talk to, but find a good therapist. And the first time I found a good therapist, and he had me do this inventory of trauma triggers and stress triggers and stuff, and I read it, and he handed it to me, and I was like, does this mean I'm dead? I was like, other than divorce, like all the major triggers had been on there, like job change, financial upheaval, births, deaths, all like, I was like, and he helped me understand, like, just because I'm not running around frantic doesn't mean you're not in dealing with stress, right? That, like a lot of guys, I felt like if you're stressed, then you look stressed out. I don't necessarily feel stressed or look stressed out, so I'm good.
Yeah.
No, I'm not good. It's just it's just how I carry it.
Sure.
And so part of it is learning to carry it, which is both good and bad, because then now I'm able to go much further down the road. I can run a lot farther. But when it hits me, if I haven't been trying to manage it in the meantime, I'm gonna get hit, and I have been hit a couple of times pretty bad. And so, and then it's just picking up things from people along the way, picking up serious practices of prayer and contemplation. Jesus, you look at the Gospels, and Jesus is like, where's Jesus? Where everybody's waiting for you, man. Like, you just healed a whole town. This is a big deal. Everybody's waiting for you. And he's like, yeah, I needed to be alone. Come on, we're leaving. And Peter, I like how the Chosen portrays Peter so frustrated all the time. They could have had him out of the gym a little longer, but other than that,
that fishing really gets you going.
I don't know, man.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, when you're hauling in those record-breaking hauls of fish.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so like spiritual disciplines. The late Dallas Willard, who was a professor at either UCLA or USC, he was a professor of philosophy. He was a Christian, and to his credit, if I recall correctly, he was sick, and he refused to leave that job because he knew they would put a non-Christian in his position as soon as he died. So he held it as long as he could. Wow. He wrote the Divine Conspiracy, The Great Omission. It's a trilogy. I forget the third. Amazing guy, And so he spoke to the needs of spiritual practices or spiritual what am I trying to say? That spiritual practices, but there's another word for it, another phrase for it. Whether it's spiritual disciplines. Spiritual disciplines. He said they're things that you want to be able to do that you cannot do right now, but you learn to do by direct effort. And it doesn't make them less spiritual. You know what I mean? It's like you want to run a certain time on a mile, and you cannot run that time right now, and so you will learn to do so by practice.
Yeah.
You want to on, right? And so it doesn't make it not spiritual, the fact that you work, it's a discipline. And so those are huge things for that. Learning some things about beneficial psychological practices and self-care practices. And some of those are very interestingly, when you read the early church fathers, mystics and things, you find expressions of some of those in there. And everybody's got to find their flavor in there. I'm not saying go be a full mystic, or I'm not anti-mystic or any of that kind of stuff. There's lots of conversations to be had there. But soul care is a very, very important thing to be about, because we are beings that are both material and not material, and one affects the other. Right? And David's great sin with Bathsheba and calling forth getting the husband killed. He's not able to sleep. He's not able to eat. His servants think that he is going to die. Nothing physically has happened to him. It's all non-material repercussions of
Yeah.
these decisions. You know what I mean?
I love that. I think that dovetails so well into our talk on burnout, because I mean, we've all experienced burnout.
Yeah.
If you've been an employee, an employer, if you've been alive, you've experienced burnout at some point in time. And you alluded to it a little bit already, but I'd love to know, like, what are some, like, and this is probably great to share with your students as well, but what are some ways that you've been able to identify early signals of burnout and be like, oh, we got to make a change? Because you talked about how, you've been through it several times, and whether you call it burnout or depression or straight up exhaustion, or, I mean, you can use whatever word you want, but I mean, the reality is, like, I had a real bad case of burnout in 2023, and I literally went to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack, and turns out I was just really stressed out. I was really stressed out, and I mean, looking back, I can see some of the warning signs. And as you mentioned at the very beginning, us men especially, I think we really internalize it a lot, and we don't vocalize it. You can't see it on us until it blows up in our face. Right. So I guess my question for you is, in your experience, what are some of those early warning signs? And then just to jump on the back of that question, what do you recommend people to do?
Yeah, so there's a lot of signs, and it can be a bit different from person to person. Of course, I'm not a medical professional, but one of the things is you start to lose the ability to, so your concentration starts to dive. From wherever that's at for you. So people have different levels that they can concentrate at. They have different levels of focus. They can maintain their focus at different intensity, different degrees of scope for different amounts of time. And you will find that being shorter. You'll catch yourself driving past exits that you should have taken a turn, daydreaming a lot longer than you should have.
Your brain's just kind of going into,
your brain's just going and going.
I'm not going to deal with anything. I'm just going to turn off.
You kind of going into la la land. You find yourself, you could find yourself getting very short. I call it like dog, trapped in a corner syndrome. That happens with a lot of guys.
Fight or flight.
Where fight or flight, and so you're snappy. Your sleep patterns are not good. You're not getting enough sleep. Your eating is not good. Some people compensate with food in good ways or bad ways, but you'll see these patterns, these actions that will trip. You'll notice that you're struggling in your intimacy with God if you're a Christian. If burnout's coming, it's very common, like when burnout is coming along, to just feel like you can't hear from God. And people go through that in many different stages, and dark night of the soul and all that. That's a big subject matter. It doesn't just mean I don't want people to be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I haven't heard from God in 2 days. I'm burned out. I'm burned out.
I had that thought just moments ago. That's good, Terry.
But it does affect us. Like a person who's in burnout is normally not just in jubilant rejoicing on the inside. There's turmoil there that goes up and down, and so there's a lot of those kinds of signs, and that's why it's important to have mates and pals and chaps and therapists and people that you talk with regularly, because they'll see it. They'll be like, man, are you okay? Like they'll it's you don't have to do the, you've got permission to challenge me or whatever. That's great. You can offer that. But if you're just got people that you trust and you're around and you're close, they'll say like, man, like, so like for me in this past year, like one of the ones that we could get into was, so I was having, major stress from the years we came back from Hungary, and trying to figure out work and working 4 different gig jobs and realizing, oh my goodness, I have 3 daughters, and in no time they're all going to be out of the house. And they all, the way life normally works is you build a life underneath your kids with friendships and activities and involvements, and then that life helps to launch them out into what they're doing. Or I don't know. I grew up not knowing anything about anything. So my wife and I are both just like, she's an only child and I'm just winging it. And at every chapter, we're just trying not most of my prayers for my kids have been, I pray for my kids every single day. And one of the prayers is just always like, they're yours, God. Like I'm just shepherding them, because, man. So, but the stress and the anxiety and everything that you get into, that has to get noticed and has to get drawn out. And being around people, they'll notice that. One of my colleagues at the college, and I won't name him because I don't want people to think he was like being mean, and I don't want him to think he was being mean. I thanked him for it, but I hadn't seen them for a long time because what happened was, in January or February of this year, I got diagnosed with colon cancer, and so I was putting off the testing. They test earlier because I was doing 4 gig jobs, and I didn't have $2,500 laying around to throw at that test. And I was feeling pretty good, felt like there weren't any symptoms or anything like that. I finally get this new job at, defensive dark arts and narrative arts. And I'm like, okay, I need to go get this test done. So I get the test done. The test comes back, and the test is like, it's a colonoscopy. And for the men out there, it was no big deal. It was easy. You didn't wake up and feel like anything bad had happened.
I've been there. It's not bad.
It's really not bad. It's like it's barely even anesthesia. You literally don't really feel anything. Yeah. But the doctor was like, the doctor wants to see you after, right? And like that's never good.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was like, hey, there were a few little things that we just clipped. That's super routine. But there was this other thing. Let me show you. Here it is. It's big, giant, ugly, scary. This is bad. And so it was the comments that were made there. One, it was kind of bad bedside manner, but it just threw us into this whole loop. And so then it was like, okay, she thinks this is cancer. She thinks this could be. Her words were, "This looks like cancer. This looks like it could be stage 4."
Whoa!
And I'm like, man, you're coming with the stage 4 hammer.
Yeah.
That's the Thor's hammer of the hammers. Yeah. You just went right back there.
Yeah.
You just went right back there for the big one. Like I respect your directness. And so I don't know how she expected me to reply. I was just sort of like, okay. So it's like got to get a CT right away. Got to get a blood scan right away. CT looks good. Blood work looks good. Things are looking good. But we've got to get this thing out of there. So then that's in February. Come to March, get the surgery. So I have a colonoscopy in March. They come back. The thing they got, everything they were looking to get out, they got out. But the big thing that they found was cancerous. And so then, they're making a push for all of their various types of methodology, standard of care type stuff with the chemo and this and that. And I'm just not really convinced, and so saving that whole journey, there's this journey we go through where you, from surgery and the trauma and the stress, and you're on ultra DEFCON 1000, dealing with this. And this colleague that I work with, when he finally sees me after months, he goes, "Dude, are you okay? You look bad. Like you look really thin." He goes, "You look like emaciated." He's like, you look, what did he say? You look like, I think he said you look like, oh man, he's the actor that I always say you look like.
Christian Bale.
You look like Christian Bale. Yeah. He's like, you look like Christian Bale in that movie. I was like, thanks, man. He's like, no, I'm sorry.
No,
like,
not the Batman Christian Bale, the
no,
other
no,
one.
the other one. Yeah. The one with the dock when he works on the dock. And I was like, no, I really appreciate you being honest, because I know that I have, and I'm like, but don't worry, like I'm healthy, I'm working out, I'm eating good, things were anyway. So yeah, you'll have friends that'll tell you, that'll be honest with you about it. But you've got to have some honest conversations with the people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're married, those are difficult, because those people are usually close to or burnt out as well.
Sure.
And if it's married and you're with kids, and so then you've got decisions like, can you find therapy or some pastoral care or some older married friends that would be willing to just sit down, and sometimes the best thing in the world is not someone that knows a therapeutical answer. It's just somebody they've been through life, and they know that you're going through life now, and they're with you. Yeah. And it's that's the weep with those who weep.
Right.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been, my wife and I have been reading this book called Habits of the Household. This guy named Justin Early, and one of the things that he talks about in that book, it's more on parenting and living a life, and one of the things he talks about is like having those, he kind of calls them soul friends, where a couple or, guys to me and ladies to my wife who honestly you can just kind of sit in the hole with in many ways, and I was in the world of mental health for a while, and so that was a big thing for us. It's just like, do you have people that can be with you? You don't have to do anything. Maybe you go for a run, or you go do something, but you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to. It's just like, can you be with them? And I often think that is, and I think that's very biblical too. It's like, I think about Jesus in Gethsemane. Like, we all look at him bringing Peter, James, and John. If you look at that whole thing, like the humanity of Jesus just wanted his friends to be with him. In many ways. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could look at it, but I think about that. I think about how important that is, and when all of the things you're talking about, endurance and stress and faith, like it's the reason why we do this together.
Absolutely. And I've got clear bill of health right now. I just realized I didn't tell you guys, like, there's good news there.
By the way,
I mean, I'm still going to die, or Jesus is going to come back. You know what I mean? Like,
120 maybe.
And by the way, that's true for you too. But other than that, I ended up doing an alternative, an integrative method of oncology that was like very minimal with the chemo stuff, very high doses of, there's a whole world out there that's on fire in the oncology world about this stuff, so I know that's not what this podcast is about, but for those that are interested, track me down from the podcast, and I'll be happy to be on your podcasts to tell you my story on that. But I got clear, there's specialty tests now that exist that are able to go, they're able to find evidence of tumor DNA at a finer degree than scans, than CTs earlier. Like up to like 6 months before a CT would find evidence. And so using those, and those are done by blood draw.
Nice.
Wow. So you don't have to have that contrast dye in you.
So cool.
And I've had 2 of those back to back, 100% clear.
Praise the Lord.
Wow.
And so,
praise God.
So thank you guys for that. But so it's humbling with that, because you get that news, and it's like, okay, I just got this job. My daughter, my oldest daughter, who's a writer, who's the greatest writer that's ever lived. You hear that, sweetheart? No, she is as an alias, so she can't bust me out on that. But she's legit great. I wish she would let me promote her on this shamelessly. She won't let me do it, but she's amazing. I mean, she's written like a 3-book thing where she uses an object to hold it together, and like there's characters that are just still with me, and she and her poetry and her, she's amazing. And so she's all out doing her and out working to do her thing, and then my middle daughter is on the cusp of, now she already has, but she's on the cusp of graduation and graduation parties and all this stuff, And then my youngest daughter just turned 18. She was about to turn 18 in August, and now I get this diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do I do, you know? And I need this job, you know? And it's like, and so praise God, the people I work with totally rallied around me. Totally were like, take as much time as you need, which thankfully I didn't need that much in the scope of it. But it was just like overwhelming. And then the question of how do you walk through this with your family where you don't want to just smash everything that they've built. You know, your kids are now experiencing good things.
Wow.
And so it's a struggle of letting them know they got everything out. Dad's doing preventative care, and then not letting it overload them.
Sure.
But being honest with them.
Yeah. Well, you know, I feel like we could talk for hours on this,
so
and I love your heart behind all of this. And one thing I thought this episode was going to be about going into it is not what it's about, and I love that.
Okay.
I thought that this episode was going to be about, let's talk about creative arts and let's talk about just leading a team and all this. And while we did touch on that at the beginning, I love where the direction has gone, because what it's really turning into is legacy. Is how do we lead in such a way to inspire a legacy that, well, first off, outlive us in a positive way. But most importantly, when we encounter hard things, how are we responding to them? And when I say hard things, sure, cancer, hard thing. That's an understatement. But even stress, even the challenges of crossing over cultures, even the challenges of dealing with our own inadequacies as men, as parents, as husbands, fathers, that is what we're talking about. And for everyone tuning in right now, I would just encourage you to do a self-evaluation.
Yeah, amen.
Sit down, pause this episode, and ask yourself, what is the legacy that I'm leaving?
Yeah.
How is my leadership impacting the people around me in a way that is leaving them better than how I found them? And so I want to ask you one final question for the episode, and then Luke will ask you one very short one as well. But the final question is, it's probably going to be a hard one. And if you cry, it's okay, because I would totally cry. And I feel really bad asking this question.
I'm crying a lot lately.
But
taking kids to college, I'm crying. I'm ready. I'll probably cry even if I shouldn't.
Well, it's a question that's probably going to feel uncomfortable, but I'd like you to be as honest with me if you can.
Okay.
Because honestly, I mean, I would be tempted to lie in response to this question. I would be tempted to lie. But I'd like to know if your kids or your team summed up your leadership in one sentence, what would it be?
I'll be honest. And I don't know if they would be the same thing. I think if my kids were asked,
Take your time, man. Take your time.
I already know what it is. And I say this because I've saved, I think, all of their Father's Day, birthday cards, Christmas cards, little arts and work and stuff like that, well wishes. And the thing that they say the most on there is, thanks for always being there.
Presence.
Presence, yeah. And I think so. Some variation of that, I think, is how they would sum it up, because that's how they've been summing it up. And if that's the case, that's fantastic. As dads, it's easy for us to condemn ourselves. In what we should have done, could have done, all those
sorts of things. But that's, yeah, I think I would sum it up as, there was a, which, and it means a lot, you know. There was a mentor of mine many years ago, and he said this. He actually raised 4 daughters. He said this in a large group thing. He said, with your children, it's not what's taught, it's what's caught.
Yeah.
You ever heard that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, so good.
There's a lot behind that.
Yeah.
Presence.
Amen. I love that.
You be present with your kids. You be present with your team. You be present.
Shoot, you've been doing it since you were 21, man.
Yeah.
It's in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not consistently, you know.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
that's
there's
the journey.
That's the whole point, man.
yeah,
Like,
but that's
literally-
one of the beauty things,
Yeah.
like with the cancer thing, or we could talk forever, because the discussions and forgiveness and things that have come out between my wife and I, where, you know, where she hasn't done it, where I haven't done that, and we've been I've been aware of it for all these years, but there's and the power, learning the power of the genuine biblical power of forgiveness.
Amen.
Like,
so good.
Knowing that
I wanna
you're
put
not able to be everything you want to be.
yeah,
And
and
that
what
you're-
God does with it, you know.
Yeah. And just being who God made you to be, being present where God put you, and being present where your feet are.
Amen.
And I think if that's all you guys take away from this, which I know it won't be, but if that's all you take away, I think your lives are changed. Because mine certainly is. So
this is the redemptive story arc that you mentioned right from the get-go, and that's what we're walking through. And so what's fun about these episodes is we're the story arc is connecting all of them, and one of the ways we've been doing that is the question that you got to answer at the beginning of this. And so we've let you, honestly, we've been filibustering this whole time.
So I get the T-shirt and the picture on the wall.
Yeah, this is
you
it.
totally
This
get the
is
picture
it.
on the wall.
This is it.
So what is the question that you'd like to leave for the next guest that comes on the next episode?
What is one thing you know now that you wish you could have taught your younger self that you can still do?
Ooh.
Amen.
That's it.
I love
That's it. Terry,
Thank you so much.
Dr.
Is
Coke.
that good?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being on the show
Thank you
today.
guys,
Thank
man.
you for driving out and being a part of this with us. And
I love this. Man.
yeah, this is so good. And thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Good Business. I'm sad it's over. I'm sure we will find a time to bring Terry back to dive in deeper. But if you feel like this was impactful, if your mindset has shifted and you want to share this with someone, do it right now. Take this link and shoot them a text, shoot them a DM, and say, hey, watch this, and it's going to change your life.
Amen.
And so please share, because that's the only way we can get this message out. I'm not running a big budget to market this to the world. It's happening in the grassroots. So please share this. If you felt like this was a positive impact on your world today, please give us a 5-star, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Hit the like button, and please subscribe so that you can be in touch for future episodes. And we'll see you guys next time on Good Business.